It's the month of October, everybody, and you know what that means. That's right. It's time to review some horror anime in the spirit of Halloween. But forget ghosts, monsters, and demons. This year, we're going to take a look at something much more terrifying. Man. So, to kick things off, let's start off with none other than Paranoia Agent.
Paranoia Agent is a 13-episode psychological thriller TV anime created by the late Satoshi Kon and produced by Madhouse in 2004. The story follows a couple of detectives who are investigating a series of seemingly unrelated assaults committed by a juvenile serial assailant nicknamed Little Slugger, as well as the dark secrets and hidden lives of his victims.
So in order to explain this show in a way that makes more sense, let's leave the real world behind and let's dive deep into the realms of delusion and insanity.
So our descent into madness begins with a montage of people in their everyday situations, and we also get brief glimpses of their thoughts. We then cut to an old man writing a rather complex mathematical equation on the ground. He looks up in horror at a rather pretty young woman on a bus as it stops and leaves, revealing writing on the wall. Shonen Bato or something. Wait a minute, Batboy is in this anime? So we meet our main character named Tsukiko Sagi, who apparently is a character designer for some unnamed production company. She seems to be under pressure to come up with a new character design by the following week, but she seems to have a severe case of writer's block. So as she walks home late at night, depressed that she can't come up with anything new, this happens? So she reaches under a car to grab one of her designs that she lost after she trips when suddenly...
Okay.
So she reaches underneath a car to grab one of her designs that she lost after she tripped when suddenly...
Ouch!
So after a rather quick recovery, she ends up being interviewed by two detectives over what happened that night.
And so starts a chain of events that will test the sanity of everybody involved. Want to know more about them?
First, let's meet our antagonist, Little Slugger. He is a rather enigmatic elementary school kid who wears a baseball cap, golden rollerblades, and carries a golden bat that was bent into the shape of a hockey stick. Rumors quickly begin to spread about him all over the city, and as the numbers of his victims increase, the more far-fetched and bizarre the rumors about him become. Not much is known about him. In fact, the only thing that seems consistent about this character is that he seems to target people who are in some sort of intense emotional duress, although the attacks at first seem unrelated. But man, I sure would hate to see what happened to the guy who heckled him during a Little League championship.
Hey, bada 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 bada, so wing bada 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 bada. Oh.
Trailing him are a couple of detectives named Keiichi Ikari and Mitsuhiro Maniwa, who are assigned to investigate the bizarre serial assaults perpetrated by Little Slugger. The relationship between the two detectives seemed to play out in the classic good cop, bad cop cliché that is so prevalent in police dramas and mystery serials. Keiichi Ikari is an older police detective who is rather stoic and old-fashioned. He is also naturally skeptical about everything, as he always looks for the most logical answer to the case. He prefers to do things by the book and has little tolerance to things that he considers abnormal or absurd, in which he often loses his temper when it comes to investigating the little slugger case. He also expresses nostalgia for what he considers to be simpler times. Mitsuhiro Maniwa, however, is more calm and relaxed, and tends to think outside the box when it comes to solving cases. Maniwa is more open to the concept of changing times, and as such tends to resort to more unconventional solutions and theories. However, his methods tend to be a little too experimental and controversial for a career in the Tokyo police force.
Don't you get it? Mr. Hirakawa's daughter was also being troubled by something. She was feeling cornered. Little Slugger must have attacked her too. Listen, I checked out her cell phone records. The call with her father was cut off at 4:13 p.m. That's about the same time as when Sagi collapsed. In other words, they both called Lil Slugger at the same time, and that's why he appeared to both of them at the same time. He's one person, yet he's not. He can appear in front of anyone who's been driven into a corner, with nowhere to go anytime.
He's one person, yet he must not run away. Must not turn your back on him. He comes for people who've been driven into a corner and have nowhere to go. Must not talk about him. Must not think about him. Rumors help him grow. Imagination. Paranoia nurtures him.
He is also very compassionate and tries to show sympathy towards the other characters.
Speaking of the other characters, they're a rather bizarre bunch.
First there's Akio Kawazu. He is a rather sleazy tabloid reporter who ends up in an undisclosed amount of debt after accidentally running over an old man while driving recklessly and being forced to pay the hospital expenses. Desperate for funds, he hears of the alleged assault on Tsukiko as a possible scandal article and begins following her in hopes for anything that would make a good story.
Hey, if you know the words, sing along!
My stalker, his obsession still remains even though he's court restrained. My stalker and me.
Actually, this kind of reminds me of another sleazy vulture who keeps up showing in the news lately that likes to take advantage of other people for their political gains. What was their name again? Oh well.
Needless to say, he also ends up getting attacked by Little Slugger. Another character I have some things to say about is Harumi Chono. This character, believe it or not, is the character in the show I feel sorry for the most due to the circumstances that she is under. She suffers from a mental disorder called dissociative personality disorder.
To put it short, she suffers from dual personalities. A good example would be the relationship between Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
By day, she is a sweet and caring teacher as well as a tutor who is constantly looking out for others and carries a professional attitude. But by night, her second personality named Maria takes over. A polar opposite to Harumi's personality, Maria is a self-centered prostitute with a sharp mouth and a fiery disposition. As Maria is a separate entity to Harumi within the same body, they often speak to one another via the answering machine in Harumi's apartment. But enough of that. Let's play Human Baseball! The last character I want to talk about before we move on is Muromi. Only a mind like Satoshi Kon can conjure up something so cute, yet incredibly creepy at the same time. She's like that creepy clown doll from Poltergeist or Chucky from Child's Play. You never know when she might come alive to slit your throat. Muromi is a pink dog with big black eyes and droopy ears that was created by Tsukiko. Although at first glance she is nothing more than a simple series of toys and merchandise, she quickly becomes something much more. This pink, big-headed, floppy-eared, large-eyed dog has taken the hearts of nearly everyone, spreading faster than most any childhood icon. Also, Moromi appears to be able to talk to her creator, though this is an illusion in Tsukiko's mind.
As usual from an anime that is from Satoshi Kon, this anime is by no means for kids, and I'll explain why. Let's start off with the show's content.
First off, there is a brief scene of full frontal nudity in episode 1 where Akio Kawazu is seen surfing internet porn on a library computer while researching information on Tsukiko Sagi's assault right in front of a group of elementary school kids.
I know it's used to show how much of a sleazy a-hole this guy is, but was that really necessary? I'd more than expect this kind of material in a hentai rather than a TV show.
Other than that, I don't remember seeing any other instances of nudity in this show. Because of this, I don't know if I should give this show 2 stars or even 4. I guess I can give the show 2 stars for quantity, and then give it 4 stars for intensity. Crude humor is kind of a mixed bag as well. Most of the crude humor in this show, if you can even call it that, mostly revolves around Akio Kawazu's sleazy lifestyle. There really isn't that much crude humor as there is adult situations surrounding the many mental and emotional states of its characters. Thus, I will give this 2 stars. Profanity is pretty mild, however in the English dub there are a few times in the show where pretty strong language is used. Thus, I will give this 3 stars. Violence in this show is very frequent and at times severe. Many characters are often bludgeoned by Little Slugger, sometimes to death. One episode even deals with internet suicide pacts. Also, characters in the show constantly physically and verbally attack each other. Thus, I will give this 4 stars for violence. This is one of those anime shows that you may need to watch more than once in order to understand what is really going on in this show. On par with other anime shows mostly targeted towards adults like Neon Genesis Evangelion or Serial Experiments Lain, this show leaves many important questions unanswered, but in a rather clever way in order for you to develop your own answer. Like I said earlier, the show is a psychological study of inner human drama, observing how people suffer from despair and fear. Some of it real, some of it all in the heads of the show's characters. Thus, the anime frequently fades within the realms of delusion and reality, where Satoshi Kon transports us into a surreal world where one's deepest and darkest thoughts can come to life, devouring everything and everyone around it. However, there are a few problems I have with this show, specifically episodes 8, 9, and 10, which have little to no relevance to the show's overall story. Episode 8 is a story about a group of 3 strangers who meet each other to carry out an internet suicide pact. Episode 9 is just a bunch of mothers making extremely far-fetched rumors about Little Slugger, and episode 10 involves Little Slugger murdering the entire production staff of a show called Mellow Moromi. Other than that, this show loves to play those little mental games with you. Enough to be creepy and confusing, and yet enough to be eerily relatable. The show also does a really good job keeping you on the edge of your seat. Even if it's just an old woman digging through the trash, it's those small moments that force you to keep postponing that bathroom break you've been meaning to take until it is too late.
Ah! Ah!
Hey, look everybody, Billy peed his pants.
So, yeah, I will give this 5 stars for story. From hearing the strange yet catchy opening theme, I could tell the music was going to be just as bizarre as the anime itself. It wasn't loud or annoying, and it perfectly fit the mood of the scene. The voice talent was very well chosen to fit the characters perfectly. Even the secondary characters or walk-on roles had great voices chosen. While the opening music can only be described as nuts, the closing music is a dreamlike soft melody, something you would expect a preschool teacher to play at nap time. So putting those in perspective, I will give this 4 stars for soundtrack. This show has a very unique style of animation. While it is horror, there is nothing too shocking, but it is very detailed. There is not a lot of focus on background or characters, and characters themselves are all very simple looking as far as shading and coloring, but are visually convincing as far as the personality of the character goes. Thus, I will give this a 4 out of 5 for animation. Although there wasn't a great deal of character development for any of these characters as far as emotional or mental growth, each of them tended to have a very deep story or history attached to them. Many episodes focus in on a single character, and the characters are dark, disturbed, and many are unattractive. The show uses characters of all ages, classes, and gender, from schoolboys to a homeless old woman, to a secretary, to a struggling father, and of course the awkward Tsukiko. In addition, everyone fits their roles perfectly, from the person who feels they are a victim, to the slimy and sleazy men, to the chief and Maniwa and their doubts about the little slugger and the case in general. Thus, I will give this show 5 stars for characters. Overall, Paranoia Agent is one of the most intelligent shows I have ever seen, with a story that will keep you intrigued and guessing until the end. If you like shows that play mild mental games with your head, I really recommend you take a look at this. It seems somewhat slow and fragmented at times, but in the end it kept me glued to the edge of my seat wondering what will happen next. Despite the somewhat convoluted plot, we are given just enough answers to the important questions in this show to make the ending decent. This is why I give Paranoia Agent 4 style points and an overall rating of 9 out of 10.
So let's celebrate the spirit of Halloween and the end of the baseball season, Little Slugger style.
Take me out, little slugger, take me out with a crack. I don't have courage to face the fact my nerves are shot up and my brain is whack. Would you please put me out of my misery? God, I wish I was dead. So there's 1, 2, 3 cracks of a bat across my head.
Well then, we bid you farewell.